I could bring her back to the senses. Get right into the sun. Maybe have a little fun on the side. On the side.
Welcome back to Unprofessional Fishing with Fish on Bass Anglers, hosted in the Tycoon Media Lounge here. We're back for another episode. We liked it so much we came back. So I've got Logan here again today. You've met Logan before. At this point, he should be our co-host because he's here every episode with me. But we got a new face here today, Joe. Joe is joining us for the first time. We did want to mention one thing right off the bat, and that is the intro music that we use and the outro music that we've been using in the episodes. It's a very important song to our club because it was written by one of our members that passed away. So Greg Dillon was one of our members. He joined in 2021. He, did really well in the club. He's a great angler, great guy, a friend to everybody in the club. And he passed away this last year in 2025. So just wanted to say that that's his song. It's an original song that was written by him, his lyrics, his music, everything. And we like it as a little tribute to him. So other than that, ready to get right into this episode. We are going to be covering our classic tournament this week. We're going to be covering different baits that we use, different techniques, everything like that. We're going to be covering how Joe caught them, how I caught them, and kind of the results of the tournament and how we went. So Logan's back. Say hello, Logan.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
And we'll get to know Joe a little bit here too. So
Hello.
Joe joined FOBA in 2007.
2007. Right in between high school and college. So I've been there a little bit of time.
Sure. And we learned that Logan joined in 1999? 2001. Okay.
Not as long as Logan. Logan was the only other young guy in the club when I joined.
We were the youths of the club. So I obviously joined way after that, but you have two guys here with a lot of knowledge on the lakes that we fish and just a lot of tournament experience in Fish on Bass Anglers and actually other tournaments, because you and I traveled and fished some tournaments and you did too. We all got together and fished kind of the higher level. At the time it was FLW tournaments. We got the one trophy there. But we've all fished together quite a bit. In fact, when I joined FOBA, Joe was my travel partner right off the bat. So
That's right.
you had the boat. I was the co-angler.
Yeah.
I didn't join you in the house. I didn't stay with you, but I slept in the parking lot because I was cheap, and you had a boat that was expensive, and I didn't have a boat. So you
were the co-angler that just appears on the dock.
Yeah.
I had no idea what you looked like. I was just looking for a guy. You just had a life jacket on. I was like, it's got to be this guy.
I brought a couple rods and I said, hey, you're my guy now. So, and then we hung out for 2 years after that because I didn't buy a boat. Well, I did buy a boat within a year and then blew the motor up.
Yeah.
I blew the motor up on that one. So unfortunately, didn't work out for me. You are a board member. Sorry. So Logan, you are a board member as well.
Yep.
I'm not. But you've been a board member for a couple years.
Couple years. Yeah. You're in the club long enough, they make you a board member. So
you got voted in, I believe, because somebody dropped out. So the board member is kind of the most select you can be within FOBA.
Right.
You guys vote on everything that gets, passed down to the club, kind of rule changes and stuff like that.
Yep.
Cool. You are one of the most consistent anglers in FOBA, I do have to say. Whether it be shallow fishing, dirty water, different techniques in the shallow water, or deep fishing. I know you have forward-facing sonar and you use that. Do you like one better than the other?
No, I think part of the reason that the club is so awesome is because when I first started, I kind of thought I knew a lot, and then you start to learn little bits from people here and there. So no, I've never been one of those people who has like one fastball. I just kind of wanted to learn all the techniques and everything at once. So it's suited me well over the years, but I think that's helped with consistency. And
Yeah, and it shows because you can catch them doing either of those things, whether you're out deep in 20, 30 foot of water, or up shallow in 1 to 2 feet of water. We talked about that before with the schedule and kind of why we make the schedule the way that we do, and you can kind of catch them everywhere.
Yeah, I think, when I grew up fishing, it was a lot of shallow stuff, and then once I got a boat, I was like, "Oh, I wanna learn how to fish deeper." So, fish with a couple people who were better than me, and, they showed me how to fish deep, and that was all, pre-forward sonar, so learned a lot there, and our schedule is so diverse that you kinda just can't be good at one thing. You have to each tournament, you have to prepare for differently, so whether we're tidal or we're, at Kerr or wherever, it's all different, so
Yeah, every lake fishes differently, so it's cool to watch you. And again, I got firsthand view of that being on your boat. It's cool to watch how you adapt to where those fish are, and it's not the same every time you go out, or even on every lake.
no, every lake is gonna be different and, depending on the time of year, so, I think we're gonna talk about Gaston today.
Yeah,
Some days Gaston, you could be up in the dirt or you could be in 25 foot, so it just depends.
for sure. And you have forward-facing sonar on your boat as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it. It's kind of a new thing to
Yeah.
fishing within the last couple of years. It's a huge topic that we could spend forever talking about.
Yeah.
But just making that known that both of you guys have that on your boat. I'll start with you. Are you utilizing that in tournaments, or are you 50/50? How much do you use that?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you have it on your boat, it's something that I mean, let's put it this way. I look at it and I have it on every time I go out fishing. Whether I'm, using it to catch my fish really depends. I'm definitely more on the other side of forward facing sonar in terms of like my preferred techniques, but I'm learning it. I know how to use it. If as long as it's allowed, it's something that I think that you're gonna have to know how to do. Um, but yeah, when you have it on your boat, it's just kind of always there.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
seems to play in most tournaments. I mean, you seem to get somebody that was using forward-facing sonar
Yeah,
in most of our tournaments at this point. It's another piece of technology that
right. My personal feelings aside, I personally think it's not great for the sport in general, but it exists, and when you're using it and you're catching fish, it's a lot of fun. I mean, catching fish is fun, so you can't. I don't look at it that way. But the things that it does to the competition, I think that's a whole separate topic. But I mean, it's not just looking at a blob on the screen and dropping a minnow or a dice or whatever the hot bait is now at it. I mean, even if you're not using it to see fish, you can see stumps and rocks and grass lines and where the contour changes. Like just the information that it gives you that you would otherwise have to take much longer to figure out, or you just wouldn't know. It like it's exponentially increases what you can do out there.
yeah. And you, I think, have had it for the longest time out of anybody that I know in the club. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
the first one to
I felt like I was kinda late to get it, but in terms of the club, probably maybe the 3rd or 4th person to get it. I would echo what Logan said, like, it's cool. I think it's awesome for fishing in general, for tournaments, though. I don't love the thought of it or using it. I see it almost like, um, it's a tool, and I look at it almost like I look at, like, a spinner bait. Like, there's some tournaments where, hey, I'm gonna lean on my scope, and, hey, there's some tournaments where I'm gonna lean on, a bottom bouncing bait or something like that. Like, I don't put it as, um it's not an all-encompassing thing that I use every single tournament. I'm not frankly, I'm not good enough with it for it to be that.
Sure.
I think the guys who are really good at it, they launch their boat and they're locked onto it, and that's just what they do all day. And for me, I've noticed if I bounce back and forth between scoping and then say throwing a square bill, I'm not gonna do very well in the tournament because
You're not
I'm
focused
not
on
honed
one.
in on one particular pattern or technique of fishing that's gonna help me that day. Do I catch r It's for me, it's more like random fish catches, which isn't great to say publicly. It's just like I'll be fishing traditionally, and then I'll use my scope for a couple minutes. I'm like, "Oh, let me see if this works." And I think that's probably the case for a lot of club fishermen or casual fishermen. We're not out there trying to make a career or make money off of it. So it's just like a side tool for me. So I've never had one tournament where I scoped them all tournament and that's how I won. It's one or two fish here or there. Certainly has added volume to my bags, but would I say I'm some scope expert or no, not at all. It's just a side thing for me.
Well, that makes me feel better. And again, I don't have it on my boat and I don't want to get it on my boat. And the way that I look at it is I enjoy beating you guys because you have it on your boat. So I like doing it without, right? But it's kind of funny to hear you guys say that you're not out there doing it the whole time because you're not beating me just using that. I mean, you guys are beating me because you're good fishermen, but
I don't think guys like us who have been doing this a long time, especially tournament fishing, I don't think that we have the mentality to just only lock in on the scope, because it's like we are ingrained to fish in certain ways, and our intuition is based around different things than somebody who has only fished and competed with a forward-facing sonar. And it's not to say that one is better than the other. Like, I'm not trying to draw comparisons here, but like, I don't think that you could get Joe to think in a way that is going to make him only do the scope. Like, he can't flip that switch in his head, right?
Because he knew about it beforehand and he fished tournaments
Right, because
before it's even a thing.
He like honed his skills and intuition with, the quote unquote old school ways. And, it's
hard
how it
to
is.
go away from that. Yeah. So we'll go over a couple of your accolades at this point. So I have written down here the tournaments in 2025. You did 7 tournaments in 2025. So a shorter season for you, or a smaller season. I think you had life happen.
I was on injured reserve for first half of the season, unfortunately. And I came back and made the most of it.
Yeah, well, you did make the most of it because you had 3 wins in those 7 tournaments. You had 6 out of the 7 tournaments in the top 5. So you did really well in the tournaments that you did fish. Your wins, I believe, were Black Hill. What was the second one?
Potomac,
that's right. And then the Classic Gaston at the end of the year. So well-rounded on the 3 bodies of water.
A pond, a river, and a lake.
Yeah, you're well-rounded. You got all. So you have 4 career wins on Black Hill. You have 4 career wins at Gaston. And your 4 career wins at Gaston are all Classic wins. So you are a 4-time Gaston Classic winner.
Yeah, very specific at Gaston. That's apparently the only time I can catch fish there. It's just
November. I was going to say those tournaments are all in the fall as well. So, but that's just some of what you've done in this last year. I mean, before that, you're Angler of the Year. You've done a lot of things over the year that have proven that you're a really good angler. So, breaking into the Classic conversation here, we did want to talk about the Classic that we host every year at Gaston. We want to recap that a little bit, just because you won, I got 2nd, you got 7th, and actually, you know what? I want to show that because anybody come into our club, that's what you get at the end of the year.
I had it in my truck for about 2 months, and I just took it out.
Joe's is a little bigger.
I know. Joe's is bigger. You're nicer. Gold. Got the gold tint.
Really gold
tint on the outside of it. Yeah. So those are cool. When you win the tournaments, when you win the end of the year tournament, you get a cool plaque. There's another one there. Cool trophies. The hardware comes with it. You guys have way more than I have, but just getting into the tournament and how we've had it on Gaston a number of years. We've gotten into that before, but what we really want to do is break down how the lake was fishing that day, break down how you caught some of your fish, and really dive deeper into some of the fish catches. So started off with, we all traveled together. So we got a house. We all stayed together. We all had our boats at the same place. We all parked at the same place.
Touching Cotton House.
This is the Touched Cotton House.
Touched Cotton.
So unfortunately, we all went down a couple days earlier, and we were practicing for this tournament. You weren't there.
Yeah.
Can you explain why you didn't?
Yeah. No, I just started a new job. That's it's a real job, unlike my last jobs apparently. So it's a lot more demanding. So I was limited on PTO, and I just said, you know what, I'd rather fish with no practice than stay home and wish I was fishing. So yeah, I think I got there at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. the
The
night
night
before.
before the tournament.
Woke up at 4 a.m. and yeah, let's go.
Caught some fish, yeah. Well, obviously, you have the history on that lake.
Yeah.
You're going in. You're not going in blind, but we'll just go over the numbers really quick. So you won the tournament with no practice, which is incredible. With 28 pounds 8 ounces. I came in second with 25 pounds 1 ounce. And Logan, you were seventh with 21 pounds 4 ounces. So we were all over the 20-pound mark, which is incredible to begin with. It shows how well that lake is fishing. But my bag was very even between the first 2 days. So I think I had like 12.8 the first day and 12.9 the second day. Like it was just, I was catching the same fish. Did you find that with your 28-pound bag as well? Or did you?
With no practice, so this is kind of where not practicing, obviously it helped me because I just went in fresh and I was like, oh, I do well here normally. So I had no low expectations, but also, I didn't get too high on thinking, oh, I had a good practice, so, I'm expecting XYZ to happen. First day is kind of like, you do your milk run, you blow out all your spots where, hey, didn't practice, so let me just go to all my favorite spots and see what happens. And for me, I kind of break down. Obviously, it's always easier when you have waypoints, right? But I always break down Gaston in the fall kind of the same way. They're either it's kind of a transition period when we go. Even though it's November, it's early November. Sometimes we get those really late summers that just extend, and that's when Gaston's kind of poopy. So you never know what you're gonna get. So I always start. I'll just pick 2 or 3 pretty big creeks. I'll start at the mouth, and I'll fish from front to back, all 3. And I'll start at the mouth, see if I get bites. Yes or no. Keep going. I'll fish the middle, see if I get bites. Same thing, and I'll go in the back and I see if I get bites. And usually it's 3 different stages of where the fish can be that time of year. So if they're at the mouth, they're kind of just starting to come in from that late summer push. If they're in the middle, they haven't seemed to school up yet, so they're kind of just out doing their thing, starting to chase bait, starting to work their way back. And if they're in the back of creeks, they're usually have schooled up at that point. It's totally different. So all 3 are different.
Now, is that dependent on time of year or
Water temperature? Water temperature. I mean, the time of year is almost kind of, I don't want to say irrelevant at this point, but it's just all water temperature dependent, and it changes really quick. So that's why, no matter what, I always give full attention to the entire creek gets fished. So I don't pick up the trolling motor. I just go, and usually in that first creek, say I catch them in the middle. All right, when I go to the next creek, I'm going to start to expect, okay, they'll be in the middle. And however I duplicate in those three creeks, after that, then I'll pick one area and I'll just go creek. And if I don't catch any in there, I'll stay on the main lake. So
sure. So you work it back as you go.
yeah, and
it's methodical about it.
Yeah, and usually I do that in practice, and it that way when we blast off at 7 a.m., I can focus on one section of each creek, or it can be main lake. It just depends.
Sure.
So,
well, it's funny you say that, not having practice and you're running your milk run where there are going to be fish because you have history there.
It helps.
But I did the opposite of that. So I did have practice, and I know you practiced at least one day as well. Mm-hmm. In my day of practice, I did the opposite. So I knew where the fish hopefully would be because I'd caught them there in previous years. I went and fished brand new water. So I tried to, I normally don't go into creeks there. I fish main lake. I like the main lake. So I tried to get into the back of a creek. I tried to go down by the dam and get into some deeper water. I tried to run up and get into some shallower water. So I tried to break it down in practice where I fished areas that I'd never fished before in the hopes that I would find fish and be able to duplicate that. Opposite of you, because you didn't have that time.
Yeah.
Did you do the same thing as me or him, or did you do something different?
I kept the main lake stuff honest a little bit. If it was going to be easy to catch them out there, then I would do that. But I went in sort of hard-headed with what I wanted to do. The past couple years, I've been developing a pretty good largemouth pattern in the fall. And, because it's 4 hours away, it's not like something I can go practice. So it's like I got to wait a whole year before doing it, right? So that's kind of what I I was going to do that going in, and because it's the Classic and there's no points, I was like, basically home run or strikeout type of mentality. And it didn't really work out that way. I kind of just plodded along and had, middle of the road bags, which was surprising because I did weigh 10 largemouth.
Sure.
And so if you had told me before the tournament, you're going to weigh in 10 largemouth in this tournament, but it's only going to be like, 10, 11 pounds a day, I'd have been like, what did I do that for? But, the big ones just weren't there. And, that's what happens sometimes, right? Like, I was a little bit too hard-headed. I should have been a little bit more methodical, like how Joe is saying. When we go there in the spring, I do a lot more, planning. In the springtime, it's not the Classic. There's points on the line. You want to do well, right? So it's a different sort of mentality than like all your eggs can go in one basket in the Classic. So,
And the $1 million question is, did you or did you not get the cheeseburger at Washburn?
oh no, I got one every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the nice thing about not doing too well in the tournament is that, you can run in for 10 minutes to grab a cheeseburger when you pass by Washburns and eat it on the way to your next spot. You don't feel like you're wasting time.
There's no pressure on you.
Yeah.
Did you pet the cat, or was the cat not there?
The cat has
passed away.
R.I.P. dude. But there's a shrine. There's a shrine in the station, so you can pay respects.
Sore subject, man. So that was practice. I mean, for all of us, it was a little bit different. Getting into Friday, and I'll just first off share kind of what I did Friday. So Friday is the first day of the tournament. It's a 2-day tournament, so you have to have fish both days. Like I said, I was very even between first day and second day. I didn't have a plan like you to catch largemouth or spotted bass because you can catch either of them there. So I just kind of went in it. I caught some fish doing this in practice. I'm going to keep doing it. So I was throwing a crankbait. I was going around docks. I was going around stumps. I was going around laydowns and just bumping it into them. And I would catch them on Friday off of that. Right off the bat, actually, my biggest fish of that day, I got it stuck on a stump. So I was winding it back in. It got stuck on the stump. So I'm popping it and snapping it. And all of a sudden my line takes off and goes. And I'm like, okay, no, it's not on a stump. But I was 4 feet from the stump because I was already committed to going and getting it off. So now I got a 3.5 pound fish going this way. And so it was incredible. I didn't have a co-angler, so I'm there by myself and I got to land that fish. So crankbait was a lot. And then on Friday, I also threw the Ned rig quite a bit. So just really small presentation. I was going around docks and I found that if there was a dock that had grass near it, so if it was out on the front of the dock, if it was behind the dock or beside the dock, anywhere that had some kind of submerged grass, I could throw the Ned rig and there would be fish there. And I would just catch as many spotted bass as I could until I got the big one. Because I was literally sitting on the same little dock and grass patch and I'd catch, 6 fish right in a row. And I was just taking the biggest one and moving on. So for me, I got my limit really early and then I just kind of repeated that all over the lake. Like I said, I did well enough, 12 pounds. As long as I have over 10, I'm happy there. So 12 was great for me. Day one, Friday, what did you focus on without practice?
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring up practice again because it's funny you were saying trying to fish new areas in practice and just add to the spots that you already had, and I definitely do that and still do it. But what I've noticed for me is I'll do that, and then on day one of a tournament, I'll start fishing my good stuff, and that keys me in more on what the fish are actually doing. So I'm all for saving fish. But one of the things that helped me with no practice was I was hitting those good spots immediately. And I'm just always thinking like, maybe I should approach practice differently and not lean on my fish on my spots, but at least touch them a little more to give me some clues on what's going on. So I wanted to throw that little tidbit in there.
Sure.
But something that helped me and probably helped you on the first day was just filling that limit real quick.
You get that confidence.
Gaston's one of those places where it's significantly easier to catch a limit now that there's spots. Well, there has been spots in there for almost a decade now. Well, probably 10 plus years now. But
Sure.
so I knew I could catch 5 fish in the first 30 minutes to an hour. And once I did that, it's kind of like, all right, I got 8 pounds of spots. The rest of the day is just free. I didn't get to practice. Let me just run all this water. So, and that's when I could slow down too. So like given that 3 creek approach that I was talking about earlier. So I caught 8 pounds off of a little spot, and then I just started working my way through creeks and tying this back into the forward sonar. And I was primarily throwing, Ned rig like you were. It's a funny bait, but the locals throw it there too. So it gets bit, and you'll catch a lot of 12-inchers, but you also can catch some
Yeah.
3 and 4 pounders on it. So I was just going down the bank, throwing a jerk bait, trying to upgrade, and then with forward sonar, kind of pan over, and I see, oh, there's a stump. Don't see anything on it. And Logan mentioned this too. So with forward sonar, it's really easy for guys to, when you watch online, you see them casting at dots and whatnot. But I mainly use mine because, again, I'm not an expert at it. I mainly use mine for just seeing different types of cover.
Sure.
And
You assume they're gonna
depth changes a little differently, and those things previously would have taken years, decades to understand and find those things on the lake. But now, so I'm in a creek, never seen this stump before in my life, pan over, it's in 6-7 feet, pick up a Ned rig because I just didn't have a minnow ready because that wasn't what I was going to be doing. Pick up a Ned rig, throw it right at the stump, and all of a sudden 3 big blobs come out of that stump, and caught one. It was a 4-pounder. So
nice.
now I got a limit by 7:30 in the morning, and then by 8:30 I got a 4-pounder. So okay, that's making my day a lot easier, and it's 8:30. So after that, I pretty much just went with that approach all day. Was throw the jerk bait, try and find those fish, and I always find what I found early was the fish were mainly in the middle of the lake, middle of the creek. Didn't see any in the back. Didn't see any schoolers. I know some
Middle
did.
middle
Middle of
all
the
the way back in, not in the
Yeah,
middle
so
of the
stay
actual
stay
water,
creek,
but
quarter
from
mile
the
long. It's dead middle in between there.
Sure.
That seemed like where the fish were because I didn't see any schoolers. Like a couple people said they saw them. I didn't see any. I mean, when they're really schooling, you'll see them busting all day. Didn't get a lot of bites on, main lake points or anything like that early on. So I just continued to work that jerk bait, upgraded a little bit. I think I had maybe 11.5 pounds by midday. And what did I have day one?
I'm not sure.
Was it, I think maybe
You
13
were
and a half,
8 pounds.
13 and a half pounds. At the end of the day, I went to my favorite spot. And this is, again, going back to what I was saying earlier. I was like, I went to my favorite spot, and then I really got keyed in on, okay, definitely in Mid Creek. And also I found a lot of clean eelgrass. So when I say clean eelgrass, like there was no other crummy grass around. Like a lot of times you'll find like the crummy grass, and I guess it's hydrilla. But the eelgrass really stood out because it made the water really clean, and I think those spotted bass like that cleaner water, and they can hide a little bit more in that eelgrass. But just started throwing in jerkbait and fishing it really slow, which typically in the fall I fish a little bit faster. Since I had a pretty good bag and I'd felt like I'd kind of stumbled on them a little bit, I started to slow down, and then I started to upgrade those spotted bass. So day one was 5 spots, and I think they were all, around 3 pounds, plus or minus half a pound.
Nice. My bag was also 5 spots on day one. I didn't have any largemouth, so
I felt pretty good about it because I know typically, like, even though there's a lot of good fish catches, numbers wise at Gaston, it seemed like around 10 pounds puts you, it plays.
I was gonna say, you also know the history there, and you the 10 pounds is pretty solid. So if you have 12, 13, like, you're already feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, anybody can catch, luck into a 17 or 18 pound bag there. You just never know. But I knew that having a 10 or above was at least like, hey, I didn't get to practice. This is a good start. So
Yeah.
having 13.5 pounds, I was pretty excited about that.
Sweet. And then you did something completely different. So we know on your Friday, you were already targeting largemouth. That's kind of what you went there to do.
Yeah.
I was just going for whatever, but you had this plan already set. So what did you go about on your first day of the tournament?
So day one of the tournament, and my day one was actually pretty similar to you guys. I think I had like 12.5 on day one. So we were pretty close. Day two is kind of where I fell off. But I've been working on a largemouth pattern there, and it's really more about, there's less largemouth in the lake, or they're harder to find. And so it's really about getting in the areas where they're going to outcompete the spots, right? And so there's specific areas of the lake that I like to fish where that is the case. But mine was all shallow water, and the thing that was like the part that I had to figure out at each point in the day was they generate power. They let power, they let water through the lake at the dam. And if you go in any of the creeks under the bridges, you can see sometimes you go in and the water's coming in, and sometimes the water's coming out, depending on what they're doing. Well, one of the primary place I was fishing, if the water's back flowing in, it's going one direction, and if it's flowing out, it's going another direction, and it positions the fish in different places.
So even though it's a lake, there is technically current that's
Yeah.
moving through it because
Yeah.
of the water being pulled at the dam.
And so, basically the way that I've figured this out is that when it's back flowing, they get on one type of cover, and when it's flowing out, they get on a different type of cover in a different direction. Um, and so it was it was just a timing thing of what the water's doing and what I'm going to throw. I caught all of my fish on a flat-sided crankbait, a shallow running flat-sided crankbait. I was fishing water that was 2 to 5 feet deep. And so it was just a matter of, I have, it was, stumps and stuff like that. And I have probably, I have hundreds of waypoints on Gaston.
I think you showed us
individual stumps.
You showed us your
And-
app, and it was like, what?
Right.
What is all this?
And
Joe, does your
Joe
waypoint have a map?
Right, yeah. Joe was kind of joking on me a little bit, but Joe said it, and we keep talking about forward facing. So before forward facing sonar, you had that was just hours of side scanning, right? I know that I want to fish these stumps, and so I would spend 6 hours side scanning a creek and marking all the stumps, and then saving that waypoint file and holding on to it. That way, when I go to the lake, I can go directly to them, and I've got my graphs linked up in a way so that, I can point my boat right at it, and I can make a cast right to that stump without seeing it. Well, now you have forward-facing sonar. You just put your boat in the
Then you
water.
have me. I
And
just
you just-
randomly saw a stump and I
you
could
just
catch 4 pounds.
And so it's like, I have all these hundreds of waypoints, and now that I have forward-facing sonar, it's like, oh, so not only do I have all of these ones that were easy to see on the side scan, now I have twice as many that were not easy to see on the side scan, but I could see on the
Sure.
spotlight machine.
So you're using your tool again.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these areas I've expanded on, it was groups of stumps, and then there's another few out here that have fish on them. And so they're new places that I can get. So, it was really just, it's shallow cover, it's area of the lake, it's making sure that the water's dirty enough, because when you're fishing that shallow water, if it's clear, the fish are not going to want to be in it, especially where I was fishing big open areas. I mean, they'll get picked off by a bird. So the water's got to be dirty enough. It's got to be moving. It's got to be the right area of the lake. So that was it. And, like I said, my first day was pretty good. I had one small fish in my bag that if I could have got rid of, I could have had a good limit. Just didn't work out. And then, the second day was where it kind of fell apart on me.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing too that you just mentioned, that which reminded me, is that the first day that I went out there, I think I only caught 6 fish all day. Like I was doing what I wanted to do, and I was running around and I was repeating it here and there. I think I only caught 6 fish, and you're allowed to weigh 5 of them. So, I only had 1 fish that I didn't catch. So I did really well for catching just 6. And then we were talking about it the first night. So on Friday, we went out to dinner. We had this funny conversation about skipping a jig under a dock, and how many docks do you think you need to skip in order to catch a 10-pounder?
Right.
And I think it was something along those lines, where I was like, in my head the second day, I was like, you know what? That might work. I might just go skip all of the docks in this entire lake. And so after I was done, I repeated the same thing that I did the first day. I had my crankbait. I actually tied a little swim bait on too, because I wanted to show them something a little different. And I just wasn't catching the big fish. So I was like, you know what? At one point, I'm just going to take a jig and I'm going to go to docks. And so I switched it up for the second day. So I did something different. I had to, because I wasn't catching fish. Sun came out, and I just started catching 2 or 3 under a dock. And it just kind of keyed me into that was a way to catch a little bit larger fish. So I stuck with the jig. And then the best part of my day, so I had, probably 9 pounds or 10 pounds or something like that. You mentioned earlier the schooling fish, and not a lot of people saw schooling fish. Well, I ran to one last pocket, which I always like to fish. Again, your favorite spot at the end or whatever.
Yeah.
And as soon as I pulled in there, I'm going down this grass line, and in the other side of the creek, I see fish just on the surface. And I'm like, okay, I got to get there as quick as possible. It was far enough away that I had my trolling motor down, and I started my big motor. And I just went over with my big motor with the trolling motor down, and just threw
I do it all the time.
as fast or as far as I could with the swim bait over into where the fish were, and I immediately just got hooked up, and that was my biggest fish of the day. So it was just cool to see them have that opportunity to throw it down there. And then that was 10 minutes before the end of the tournament. So like that made my whole tournament and probably bumped me into second place instead of third.
When you wish you had 10 more minutes.
Yeah. Just follow them around, chase them around. Cause you know that 1 3.5 pounder I caught, there's 5 more of them right there. So, did you change anything for day 2 or?
Day 2 was tough initially. So I was excited. So this it's funny. Night 4, no pre-fishing. I have no excitement, and I just it was pretty easy to do decent. And then after I probably caught 30 fish day 1, so I was very excited. Got good sleep, woke up, and I was ready to catch 30 fish again. And I think I went to my first spot that I pretty much always catch a pretty quick limit. Had one bite and was exactly 12 inches. I almost didn't keep it. But yeah, 1 12-incher, went to my second spot, 0 fish. Then I started having to fish some new water, and I was spinning out a little bit. I think I had just that 1 12-incher by maybe like 9:45, which sounds still kind of early, but it gets what do they say? It gets late early.
Time goes quickly.
Yeah. So I had not caught any fish on the main lake at all on the first day, and because I was spinning out a little bit, I was like, let me just try some different stuff and get reset. And I caught a 4-pound largemouth on a Ned rig. Very random. Just it totally turned my day around. So I went from just 1 12-incher to all of a sudden now I got 5 pounds. Okay, went to my very best spot, and from there I think I did end up catching 30 fish to finish the day. But it was all, aside from that 1 4-pounder on the Ned rig, I caught a lot of high 3-pounders on a jerkbait in that same eelgrass. I went around that whole creek, just kept catching high 3 after high 3. I think I had around 13 pounds, and I was actually feeling pretty good about it. I was like, man, like somebody could always catch 17 pounds, but I was like, I should probably just try and keep adding. And I'm happy I did, because you came in with a pretty good bag. And then I had one of those random scope fish again. I was leaving that creek, and I was like, well, if they're stacked in there, maybe there's some that have already, moved there and back or whatever. Maybe they haven't come back in there yet. So I threw a minnow for the first time, and I think I caught another 3-pounder. So I was feeling good.
Yeah. I think you had way more weight the second day.
I did, and I don't think I've ever actually had more weight on day 2 and won a tournament. I don't think I've ever done that before. So I was pretty impressed with myself with that. But the biggest fish of the day came, I already had 13 pounds and I was feeling good. And then I fished just all new water, just having a fun fishing day. And I caught, I think, a 4+ largemouth. So I had 2 largemouth in my bag that day that were each right around 4 pounds. And then the rest were, 3-pound spots. So
Yeah.
it just all came together. I felt like I kind of had a little bit of a magic jerkbait tied on. I mean, it was, it's a mega bass like everybody else, but that one just seemed to be getting bit a lot. And fortunately, the bill broke on like the third to last cast of the day on a.
You don't have that one anymore.
I do.
Oh, you have a backup.
Yeah, my backups got backups, but no, I caught like a pickerel, which I don't think I've ever caught there. I caught a pickerel on that jerkbait, and I was taking it out, and the lip just snapped. And I was like, well, I guess that earned its $25 price tag. So, very good day.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate, and that was a nice way to cap the season.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the win. You did beat me, but you beat me handily though. Like it wasn't like you beat me by a couple ounces. I was 24, 25, and you were 28.
That's how you want to lose.
Yeah. I want to get.
You don't want it to be 2 ounces. You want it to be 5 pounds.
Correct. I mean, I fit
Correct.
there a million times, and I don't think I've ever had just a day. I mean, again, I had 1 fish by 9:45. I don't think I've ever had an afternoon that just everything went perfect after that. So,
Yeah.
it only takes 1 fish to turn your day around, and just being confident. Again, having a lot of waypoints always helps, but a lot of those fish were kind of in new areas on the second day. So
Sure. Well, we appreciate you breaking down the lake. Appreciate you breaking down the lake too. That's kind of what this episode was about, was breaking down a lake that's on our schedule. So Gaston, it's going to be the Classic again this year. So if you want to fish it with us, come on out. But we hope you like this content in this video. It's more of a breakdown of the lake and kind of giving you some tips on catching fish. You could take our techniques and go out there and catch fish for yourself. So go ahead and do that, and we'll see you next time.
Nice job. Yeah.
bed